Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be a little different than my normal budget, planners, home organization, things like that. Today I want to give you tips for going back to school for virtual schooling this fall. I also want to tell you about some school supplies that I found, and I want to give you some tips as we get ready to go forward. A quick background before we begin. Before I moved to Florida, I was a teacher and I absolutely loved it. I got my master's in teaching, and even though my certifications were in Spanish, special education, English as a second language, and theater, I spent my entire teaching career teaching Spanish. Now, some of these tips are my own, and some of them are from family and friends who are still teaching, and I wanted to reach out to them because a lot of them have done the virtual school thing as recently as a month or two ago, and a lot of them are preparing to do it again as fall starts. So anyway, I hope that these tips are beneficial to you, so let's jump right in. Tip number 1, set up a reward system. Now this tip comes from one of my best friends, Sarah. I think she's getting ready to start her 10th year teaching, and she has 2 kids, and so she's getting ready to do the teaching thing while doing the virtual learning for her own kids at home. So she is a superhero and totally amazing, and she highly recommended this. Now, I want to read to you verbatim exactly what she said to me when we were texting about this. I know a lot of parents don't want to reward their kids for things that they should be doing, but we have to approach it differently. They aren't supposed to do school with mom and dad, or grandma, grandpa, a nanny, a babysitter, a friend, whoever. They aren't supposed to do this without the benefit of social interaction. So we have to do whatever to get it done and keep some peace. And I think that keep some peace at the end is really important, because ultimately this has to be beneficial for them, but it has to work for you too. You also need to survive. The reason why I picked this as tip number 1 is because I recently asked a bunch of my friends with kids, like, what was the hardest part of the spring for you? And a lot of my friends, I don't want to say all, but almost all of them said that their kids would just really struggle with working at home. A 30-minute assignment would take 4 hours, or there would be meltdowns, tears, tantrums, or they would do the assignment, but there would just be so much complaining. So I also talked to my mom about this, and she is a recently retired teacher. She just retired after 30 years of teaching special education, and I'm so excited and so proud of her. And she's always said this, but she reminded me when I talked to her about that this is perfectly normal. So a kid is going to act a lot different in a classroom with a teacher surrounded by their peers than they will at home. They're going to be more comfortable at home, which is normal and kind of what you want. That's how it should be. But just keep that in mind. So these reward systems can really help when we're having struggles at home and things are getting really challenging with work. So Sarah recommended, and I think this is great, trying to come up with a menu or a list of no-cost rewards. So for example, a picnic outside, or the child gets to choose what you're going to have for dinner, or pick the Friday night movie, or a board game time with somebody special. So these are all really good tips, especially if you don't want to spend money on a reward system. I also recommend checking out Pinterest. If you go there or you Google reward system for and enter your child's age, a bunch of things will come up, so you can make something that's going to work best for you. Sarah sent me a picture of her reward system, and it is so cute. It's a pig that she hangs on the fridge, and her son, who's 4.5, can earn coins and put them in the bank. So at the end of the week, he can cash in for something big. So she said he loves to go to the dollar section area of Target. That's like a big prize. Or if he wants, he can cash them in for a smaller reward at the end of the day. You also may want to consider doing your rewards weekly or monthly, so that at the end of the week or the end of the month, you can recap and say, hey, this went really well, or no, it didn't. And then you start the new week or the new month fresh with a new reward system. That way, you and your child can have the conversation of, what am I working towards? What are my goals? And you can find something that works best for you. Tip number 2. Give yourself grace. You are not a teacher. It's really hard. It's hard for teachers who've been doing it for a really long time, and you don't have that type of training. To become a teacher, I had to get my bachelor's, then I went back to get my master's. I had to do 2 internships and student teach, take 3 really difficult tests, and then I could become a teacher. And what's interesting, this is a little tidbit, I don't know if many people know this, but the county where I taught, you had to get a master's degree within the first 10 years of teaching, or they would freeze your pay. So a lot of teachers have a second master's or a ton of professional development credits. They work so hard. So again, don't expect that you should have the same knowledge, skills, and ability as a trained teacher. Of course, I'm not saying don't try, but don't put so much pressure on yourself that you stress yourself out. Give yourself a break, give yourself a little grace. Tip number 3, do not compare your child to someone else's child. Now, sometimes I would have a conference with a parent, and a lot of the parents knew the other parents and knew the kids because they were all friends. And a parent would say something to me like, oh man, I wish that my kid was like so-and-so. I mean, you know so-and-so, right? You teach so-and-so. And of course, for confidentiality, I couldn't say anything, but I would just think to myself, like, if you only knew what was going on with so-and-so in their home or at school or whatever. So it can be really hard. And I know that we hear all the time, do not compare someone's highlight reel on social media to our own lives, but that can be really hard, especially right now. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any friends in person in months. I haven't really gone anywhere aside from like the store to get my basics and what I need and come home. So it can be really hard not to compare online and on social media when that's really maybe some of the only social interaction you get. But I would just say celebrate your own child's accomplishments, and if it was a rough day, accept, hey, it was a rough day, everybody has them, and move on. But comparison is the thief of joy, so do not compare your kids to any others. Tip number 4, and this is another one from Sarah, another one of my favorites. Make sure that you set up a routine for yourselves and a distraction-free work environment, the best that you possibly can. So, an ideal situation, which again, life isn't perfect, but you do your best. Your child goes to bed at the same time, they wake at the same time. They get dressed, even if it's just changing from pajamas to sweatpants, they get dressed, brush their teeth, come downstairs, eat breakfast, or go to the kitchen, wherever they're gonna be working, and they start their day. Now, as for your space, you want to think about it as an area where you have supplies available, you have pencils and a device if that's what your child is using. Now this might be in the corner of their room, at a desk, in an office, maybe you've repurposed your playroom, or you might not have that space and you might be doing this at the kitchen table. Wherever you are, do your best to have no distractions there, because if there's an assignment that your child really is trying to avoid, or something they don't want to do, or something they're bored by, they will easily find everything around them to distract them if they're really trying to avoid whatever assignment it is. So your best bet is to create a routine that will work for you and your family, and to do your work in a distraction-free environment. One more note about the routine. Make sure, if at all possible, you're creating time for you, your family time together, your alone time, your work time. I know that it's really hard working from home when you have family at home, or you're trying to take care of your kids and things can get really chaotic, but make sure that you're making time for yourself when you create this routine and your schedule. Tip number 5, be patient. I know sometimes it's so hard to do this, but where you are on day 1 is not where you're going to be on day 10. So it's important to think of this, because even teachers, when they start the school year, know that they need to have patience when they're trying to figure out what works for certain students. So for example, let's say your child needs to do 10 math problems. Maybe they work best where they just do their 10 math problems and they're done. And that's what works for them. Maybe they need to do 5 math problems, take a 10-minute break where they go outside or have 10 minutes of screen time, and then they come back after they've decompressed and they finish those last 5 problems. And this will help avoid a meltdown or really heightened emotions or becoming really upset. I don't know what will work for your child, and you might not get either, and that's okay. Sometimes it's nice to have that break in the middle. Sometimes your child might be harder to rein in or refocus that second time, and it's easier to just do all the work at once. At any rate, be patient and give yourself time to figure those things out. Next tip, get out of the house when you can. I know it's hard because a lot of us aren't going many places, still trying to be cautious and not expose ourselves. But if you can, let them take a bike ride, walk around the neighborhood, even if you have to drive to the store to pick something up real quick. I've been doing a lot of Target pickup where you don't even get out of your car. They just put something in the back seat and you drive away. Just to get out of the house and have a change of scenery can be really helpful. So allow for those breaks, get outside, get some fresh air, and do the best you can with that. Tip number 7. Enjoy your back to school traditions. I know it's hard because sometimes it's the mentality of like, oh, this kind of stinks and I'm not excited about this and this was not what we were planning and not what we expected. But if you take that first day of school picture every year and they've got the cute sign or the cute t-shirt, do it. If you have a special tradition where on the first day of school you make pancakes and a huge breakfast, or every Friday you'd stop and get donuts, you can still do those things. So try to find happiness, try to create and maintain traditions the best you can, because this is all we have right now, so we may as well make the best of it. Tip number 8, be honest with your child. It is okay if you are having a rough day, maybe everything is crazy, they are trying to do their classwork and you're trying to work from home and the dog's barking because someone just rang the doorbell and things are a mess, it is okay to say to your kid, hey, today is a really hard day. I need 5 minutes. I just need a break. Maybe they will or maybe they won't give you one, but you can be honest. You do not have to have a happy face all the time. Of course, do your best, because a lot of times kids are sponges and they'll absorb your energy, but life isn't perfect, and this situation certainly is not ideal by many of our standards. So do your best, but if you need to tell your kid, hey, I need a minute, or hey, today was not a great day, that is all right. Tip number 9, allow your child to take ownership. Now, I can't imagine anything more devastated to my 9-year-old self than if I couldn't pick out my own school supplies. Even as an adult, I love school supplies. I just love them. There is nothing like a fresh sharpened pencil. Side note, I'm thinking, if you love yourself, if you care about yourself, if you have any self-love and self-respect, when you go to the store, buy the pre-sharpened kind, just do it. You will thank yourself. I'm just gonna put that out there. That was a bonus tip. Anyway, I know that kids might not be able to pick their own school supplies, but you can always say, hey, I'm going to the store with these color choices. What color notebooks would you want? What are your top 3? Would you prefer this character or that character? Do you want spiders or unicorns? Whatever is on a notebook. I don't know. But let your kid have the opportunity to pick some of their own school supplies or have a say in it. Another way for them to take ownership is, I love these whiteboards that I've been seeing everywhere, or calendars. So the paper calendars or the calendar whiteboards. So allowing your child to write down their daily tasks, check them off, or erase them, that might be something that they really enjoy doing. It might not. It might be easier for you to just write down what they need to do and keep track of it. But if that's something that will motivate them and they like to do that, that can be a great way for them to take ownership over their own learning. Tip number 10, get your school supplies right now. Now, I know that places like Target and Walmart always seem to have an office supplies section, but in general, school supplies are cheaper now and they're more readily available, a larger selection than if you need to get them in November, January. Things like backpacks, notebooks, lunch boxes, those are a lot harder to find later on. So if you need school supplies, make sure you stock up now. All right, last tip, tip number 11, and I think actually at the beginning of this, I said there were 10 tips, so surprise, you get a bonus tip. And actually, this is probably one of the most important ones, but please be kind to the teachers and communicate with them. Be kind, communicate. Be kind, communicate. So I have a lot of teacher friends still that I keep in touch with, and I have a lot of family members actually that are teachers, and they've had a really rough summer. A lot of them have had to wait and have had to sort of hope that they would hear from their district or their county about the decisions that they were going to make, and they didn't get information until the last minute, or they're still waiting. They weren't sure if fall sports were going to happen, then they were, then they weren't. So it's been really chaotic. They've also been stressed about their own family's needs because they have kids too. So it's been a really difficult time, not to mention the fact that a lot of them, I actually have a teacher friend who told me she had to leave social media for a little bit, which that's great. It's always nice to take a break, but just reading some of the comments from the community members on their Facebook page about teachers shouldn't get paid if they're gonna work from home and they're not really even doing anything from home. People are being so mean. And I know that, you can't let internet trolls bother you, but teachers always seem to just get the difficult end of everything. So please be nice to them. And the other part of this is please communicate with them. So every now and then I would have a parent who would call school and be like, well, I emailed you and you didn't email back. And it was the afternoon and I would be like, well, when did you email me? And they're like, at 9 this morning. Well, if I taught first, second, and third period and my planning wasn't until fourth period, I didn't see your email until 1 p.m. I didn't even go to the bathroom until 1 p.m. So think about that before you kind of, have an expectation of when they're gonna get back to you. Kind of having some understanding and compassion about their schedule and realizing that they have a lot of students they're taking care of, and educating is important. It's just something to consider, and it's something that they'll appreciate too. All right, let's talk about school supplies for a quick minute. This is my absolute favorite. Now, I know a lot of things are being done virtually on tablets and computers, but do not underestimate the power of fresh sharpened pencils, paper, notebooks, and art supplies. You all know about my love for Dollar Tree, and they certainly did not disappoint with their back to school section. What's also nice is that they're well stocked and tend to have supplies year round. Perhaps not always this many, but you can always find some basics here, which is good to know after school supplies are no longer a seasonal offering at other stores. I love their storage container section year-round, and I love these small caddies for basics such as pens, pencils, scissors, and other materials. They're only $1 and come in many colors, so you could even grab a caddy for each child if you have more than one to help them stay organized. Dollar Tree also impressed me with their arts and crafts section, which included stickers, paints, and much more. Their teacher corner was well stocked, and I'm not saying you have to decorate your home like it's a school, but I have heard of a few people repurposing a small corner of a room, a home office, or a play area, and it's nice that they have bulletin board supplies and other classroom basics here. I also talked about Aldi in a previous video and their Aisle of Shame, which has some great back-to-school supplies, including educational rugs, which are $18.99 each. They're 46 by 52 inches, planners for $7.99, and some educational puzzles for colors, letters, and geography practice. My favorite puzzle is for sure the United States one, and it's a fun way to practice US geography. Walmart's aisles were fully stocked, and I really love these 2 dry erase calendars, which can be helpful if you and your child decide to write out the day's tasks and activities, make a schedule, or you use this to track rewards. Each cost $6.97, and they have a weekly and monthly option. Last up, and my favorite place to get school supplies, Target. Target has a million caddies, baskets, and bins for storage and organization if you want to prepare before the school year begins. Here's a tip: don't look for storage in just one place. I found them in the dollar bin, the back to school section, and the home organization section, so they're spread out all over the store. If you want some fun items for a prize bin, or some flashcards or games or other tchotchkes, I definitely recommend checking out the dollar section, where items usually range from $1 to $5. Also, my goodness, I just love Post-its, so if you want to color code or organize things, this multi-pack is $10. Although I'd imagine a lot of activities will be virtual, if you have papers and need a place to store them, an organizational tip is to get an accordion folder. I saw these in the office supply section as well as the back to school area. I mentioned calendars earlier, and if you're interested in a large paper one as opposed to the whiteboard, they also have many options in both the office and back to school sections. My personal favorite is this blank one because this could be fun for a child to decorate or write on, and it's only $7.99. You may want to consider grabbing a few dry erase markers because sometimes teachers use those with whiteboards for different activities during virtual classes. Target also has a great, well-stocked school supply section, and I highly recommend getting extra markers, pencils, pens, highlighters, and notebooks. I am a Crayola fan for life, but I got a pack of the Up and Up markers on sale for 50 cents, and I was pleasantly surprised. You're going to want extras because your supplies are going to disappear by November, and that's if you're lucky, so keep that in mind. Once the school supply section is gone and they're putting up pumpkins and Christmas trees, the sale prices are gone too. Crayola markers are 99 cents right now, but they're going to go up to $2.39 when you need them in a few months, so if you're able, I highly recommend stocking up now. Anyway, there you have it. I hope you have an amazing school year, and I wish you the very best of luck. And hopefully some of these tips were useful for you. If there's anything I missed or any concerns you have or questions, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Or if you're a teacher and you're thinking, oh, you forgot this or you skipped that, or this would be super beneficial, I would love to hear those in the comments below as well. So I hope to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.